Hello and welcome to another episode of Dallas Watch. I'm Warren Johnson, and today I'm going to talk about the removal of the Robert E. Lee and Young Soldier sculpture, that valuable and beautiful piece of art, from Lee Park, or what was Lee Park, now it's called Oaklawn Park, but it'll always be Lee Park to me. I'm going to tell you the story of why it was really removed. I'm going to discuss two theories, and I'm going to give the theory that I think is a blockbuster and I think is the true one. So here it goes. The official version, of course, by the city is they wanted to save the sculpture from white supremacist vandalism or vandalism of any kind, and that there was also some people complaining that it was oppressive, and the phrase du jour, which is, "That's not who we are." I can't wait till that one goes away. That's the official City of Dallas version. Another version is by a lady named Sandra Crenshaw. Sandra Crenshaw is a very interesting person. I just love her to death. She's a black woman. She was a city council member about 20 years ago for a term. About 30 years ago, before that, she was on the Dallas Park Board. And her family history goes way back to the Texas Republic days. She's very proud of her history. And she's very proud of everyone's history and says nothing should happen to it. Leave the history we've got alone, but also we need to prop up black history in the state, in the city of Dallas. I totally agree with that. There's a lot of fascinating and interesting history that we are just not being told. So that needs to be brought up. Leave the other history alone. But she thinks that it was because of the LGBTQ community who they came to her. Well, they came to the park board back 30 years ago, and they wanted to put up an AIDS memorial, and the park board turned them down. So she's thinking that her contention is that they've had it in their minds, that particular group has had it in their minds to take over Lee Park and do with it what they want, and that they've gotten together with some other groups to take over Lee Park and make it totally into something else. Get rid of the statue, change the name. However, they leave the Arlington Hall there, which is a 3/4 replica of Arlington Hall at Lee's plantation in Virginia, but they wanted to keep that there, and they don't have any problem with that, which is kind of odd. And now the Lee statue was commissioned by a group of ladies who went out and raised the $50,000 to 500. I can't remember the figure off the top of my head. A large sum of money in the 1930s. Let's just put it that way. The Dallas Southern Memorial Association, and those ladies were some true steel magnolias, and they put this together, and they were able to put it in City Park, get the leaders to allow the city to create that park and put that in there. And it's still an organization and ongoing, and most of the people that are in it are pretty good, but I've got a concern about their leadership. When we first put the lawsuit out there, the problem that we kept saying we were going to have was what's called a standing in court. I barely have standing because I'm a close property owner near that park, so it affects me in a way. But the Dallas Southern Memorial Association, which is still active, still meets out there, they could have had it, most likely. They had a claim for it. They could have taken it back, says, okay, we'll take it, we'll put it someplace else. As you know, the city auctioned that statue off for $1.5 million. If the Dallas Southern Memorial Association would have taken that money, would have taken the statue, they would have the $1.5 million. I also found out through visiting another attorney to see if we ought to get some advice on the Lee statue. Turns out he used to have an office near Lee Park, and he thought that statue was so beautiful, he offered the city $2 million for that statue. They wouldn't take it. But if the Dallas Southern Memorial Association would have taken back that statue, they would have had $2 million. I tell you what, if I'm a member of that, I'd be really upset at my leadership for this screw up. But that's their issue. The reason they didn't take it is because I had the president. I snuck into one of their lunches. Okay, let me put it that way. I had no idea they were having lunch. I just saw something going on in Arlington Hall. I walked over there and said, hey, what's going on here? There's a bunch of ladies. There was a table out there, and they said, oh, we're having our lunch. I said, well, who are you guys? I said, we're the Dallas Southern Memorial Association. Somebody didn't show up. Would you like to come in for lunch? Hey, I'm all in for a free lunch. So when I came to sit there, this lady who was obviously in charge of something was a little concerned. So she came up and talked to me, and turns out she was the president of the Dallas Southern Memorial Association, and She spoke to me a little bit about this. She swore me to secrecy as far as using her name, so I won't use her name. But she did say the reason that they didn't go for it is because they did not want to be accused of being homophobic. So for $2 million, they don't get to be called homophobic. So there's that. But let me tell you the most interesting theory, and it was told to me as being the truth by a city council member. So we'll just see, you know, put that weight on it if you want. But let me set the stage. Angela Hunt, who was a city council member in this district several years ago, Philip Kingston, who was a city council member until the last election, he took over from her after she termed out. And then a fellow named Scott Griggs, who termed out, he was a city council member over in North Oak Cliff, and he also ran for mayor and lost. Through researching online, the various magazines, D Magazine is one, and of course Dallas Observer and Dallas Morning News, you'll find some articles that they were like this troika, these three. They were, you know, helping each other and decided one of them at the right time and place would run for mayor. And it just so happened that the right time and place happened to be for Scott Griggs. So they all came out after him. But they knew that there was another person who also had their eyes on the mayoralship, or whatever you want to call it, and they needed to knock that person out. And that person was Jennifer Staubach Gates. They knew that if she ran for mayor, that she would get it from a name only. So they had to do something to get her out of the race. So they came up with this idea. If they could get her to come out in favor of removing Lee's statue because they figure she'd pander to the entire city because she's going to try to run for mayor. She thought by doing that she would pick up the favor of the rest of the city, not realizing that she was going to alienate her constituency, which Scott Griggs and Angela Hunt and Philip Kingston had a good idea that that's what would happen. She would do that but alienate her constituency. And that's exactly what happened. This was told to me by Sandy Grayson, because I went to visit with her about running for mayor. Not running for mayor, but about me running for city council. And we were talking about a number of things, a whole range of stuff regarding city council and so on. And then they got to the point about the Lee statue. And I asked her, you know, they said it was gone because I said the LGBT community wanted it gone because I'd just spoken with Sandra Crenshaw. And she goes, oh no, that wasn't it. So well, who was it? What was the issue? And then she told me that story that I just told you. My jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe she'd be that open with me. But it made sense. And also, I'm going to throw up here, we're going to run this. It's a 1-minute video about a radio commercial. We're going to put in here and just look at it. And this explains a little bit about Jennifer Staubach Gates and what happened and how it lends some credibility to Ms. Grayson's story.
Last week, the pro-cop killer Black Lives Matter Antifa thugs won a big victory when the city of Dallas caved and removed a sculpture of Robert E. Lee at a cost of hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars. And while Mayor Mike Rawlings is getting most of the blame, the name you all should remember is Jennifer Staubach Gates. Jennifer Staubach Gates. Gates called the monument to General Lee, dedicated by President Franklin Roosevelt, a statue memorializing white supremacy, neo-Nazis, and the Klan. And that's what she thinks of you too. Jennifer Staubach Gates. Her alt-left rhetoric is right out of Black Lives Matter and Antifa. The General Lee Monument may be down, but Councilwoman Jennifer Staubach Gates is still in office. Call her and tell her to resign. 214-670-3816. Never forget the name. Jennifer Staubach Gates. Jennifer Staubach Gates. Paid for by Conservative Response Team.
But anyway, so that's why it was moved. It was done by the most brazen, naked, Machiavellian political move I've ever seen. So a beautiful, valuable, obviously worth at least $1.5 million. Could have been worth $2 million, maybe more, that belonged to us, the citizens of the city of Dallas. It was sacrificed for the political expediency and the political even though it failed, for the political maneuvering of very few people. And that's what happens. At another episode, I'm going to discuss this ruling class that we have here in the city of Dallas. It just disgusts me. but they tend to get on these things, and rather than being good stewards for us, they're good stewards for their own personal ambitions. So we're going to cover that another time. But right now, I still got that lawsuit going on with the Lee appeal. I want you to go to this website and take a look at it. I've got some documents up there for you to look at www.returnlee-to-leepark.org. Regarding the Lee statue, we're in appeals court right now with it. Now, during the appeal process, we lost in state court. During the appeal process is when the Lee statue was sold and removed. But we can still carry that practice on the way through. We may get the statue back. Highly unlikely, I know it. But we may get some monetary settlement, which will come to the Return to Lee Park funds. And that, we can use that money because the reason I had to give the IRS that we needed a 501c3 organization designation, which we are, so your deductions are tax deductible, is for the protection, preservation, and maintenance of historical statuary, markers, plaques, and cemeteries. And if we do get a financial settlement, then that's what we're going to use it for. So anyway, thank you very much for paying attention today. We're going to see you next time at another episode, so stay tuned. Have a good day. Bye-bye. I really appreciate you tuning in to watch the show. Please hit the like and share button and share it with your friends and family. If you'd like to give us some feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Just email us at dallaswatch2020@gmail.com. Also, please consider a tax-deductible donation. You can go to www.returnlee-to-leepark.org. Also, don't forget, tune in every Friday, 7:30 Dallas time. New episode comes out of Dallas Watch. See you then. So long.